Spiritual growth tools on the radio, helping you understand the blocks you have in your life to being happy, with a wide variety of guests to help you better understand the problems you're having in your own life. Whether you're depressed, poverty-stricken, suffering ill health, or confused about how to take the next step, discover products, services, and information that will enable you to grow with grace and address issues that are preventing you from happiness, health, or abundance. Go to spiritualgrowthtools.co.uk and find out what's holding you back.
Hello everyone, and you are listening to Spiritual Growth Tools on the radio, where we discuss spiritual growth, what that means, and how it can help you to move forward through the blocks that you have to health and happiness. I'm your host, Caroline Nettle, and today's special guest is Charles Eisenstein. Welcome, Charles.
Hello, Caroline.
Hi, thanks so much for coming on. So, for those of you who don't know who Charles is, he has written The Ascent of Humanity, Sacred Economics, The Yoga of Eating, and his latest offering is The More Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible, and I am just in the process of reading it, and it's absolutely beautiful. He's a prolific essay writer and speaker and travels the globe spreading his message. So, again, a very big welcome to you, Charles, and to everyone listening today. And I wanted to start the show off really by, you are today an international speaker and a global writer, and you have what I can see a very good following of people who just feel that there's something in the world that they just want to change. And I'm just wondering if you could talk us through how you got to being someone who shares their views through the written word and spoken word, and how your life transpired to get you to here.
I think I did anything that extraordinary, really. It's just kind of one essay, one book at a time. I could easily see, if a few things had gone differently, I would be totally obscure. Sometimes I read books or stuff online that's really awesome, and the person's totally unknown. And then on the other hand, some really well-known writers in whatever field, even like the spiritual field, you read the book and it's like, yeah, it's not even really that insightful. So I think that there's some kind of destiny operating here. Yeah. I could tell you, I don't think that my trajectory is necessarily really that interesting.
Okay. Well, if we want to talk about something else, then so how did you, because all of your books are so different from any other books I've ever read before, and as much as they're very insightful and especially The More Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible, it's almost as if you're talking to the part of me that already knows some of this stuff, but I've never heard it said in the way it's been said before. So maybe we could talk a little bit about how you reached how did you read, the philosophy or your words, or how you got to where you got to with The More Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible, because I just think it's phenomenal.
Yeah, I don't know, the book is really very much an outgrowth of The Ascent of Humanity. And I guess that book came originally from this lifelong sense that I've had that there's something wrong in the world, that things are supposed to be this way, that the normality that was offered to me was not normal, And I spent so many years grappling with that and trying to understand that feeling. Is it a true feeling? Is there really something wrong in the world, or is it really something wrong with me? And I can't adjust. I've got this problem, emotional problem, spiritual problem, psychological problem. But instead of facing up to it, I project it out onto the world and say, no, it's the world that's wrong, not me. Failing to look at, whatever flaw it is in myself, which is it? The system that we live in essentially says, well, yeah, there are some problems, sure, but fundamentally things are the way they should be. Humanity's moving forward, we're progressing, and science and technology will solve our problems. That that ideology is becoming less convincing now as we look out on the world and we see that the problems are growing and that we don't really know what to do about them. But that, that belief that we're fundamentally on the right track, that science has the basic description of reality, for example, that medicine is improving, that social engineering is improving our lives, and all that stuff, that still immerses us. So I guess the book, came out of this, this need to know, is it the world? Is it me? Or is it somehow both? In what way does the wrongness of the world project itself into my own psyche? How am I an embodiment of problems of civilization? So that's kind of where all of the work is coming from. It's just, I just couldn't sit still. I just always, I just kept on holding this question for a long time. And I think that it's like anything, if you ask enough, if you hold a question in your mind long enough, you eventually will connect with the field of the answer. And it's not to say that I came up with the answer, but I came up with an answer, that illuminated a lot for me.
Yeah, because reading your book, I'm really guilty ever since I can remember, even as a really small child, being hugely angry at the world for, now it's tigers, polar bears, whales, overfishing, deforestation. But when I was a kid, it was, standing on snails. I remember getting angry at people for that. Just always, like you say in the book, just projecting it out there. And, in my later years, I've, done a lot of healing on myself. And it was really interesting. Somebody once said to me, find a being that you can write to. So for me, that was the angels and God. And start with a piece of paper and write at the top, I am angry because ... and just keep writing until you stop. Mm-hmm. Well, I won't spoil the end for anybody who has an enormous amount of anger, but it's a fantastic exercise, because at the end, of course, I was just like, oh, I see what I'm angry at. Okay. And now I can start to heal it. And a lot of it is unconscious. But, for me, one of the biggest questions, I suppose, the book poses for me is like, I see so many people still fast asleep, like snoring, and it's a big world and it's a beautiful world, and it's, I have to believe that it's going to be okay, even after the demise of man, possibly, but I just sometimes want to smack everybody and wake them up.
Mm-hmm. The question is, how did you wake up? Is it because you got smacked? Or, because someone smacked you? Because if you really want people to wake up, that's a really important question to answer.
Yeah, okay, how did I get woken up? Actually, no, I think some people loved me, like really held me in love, and it was something I'd never felt before, and it just made me think, oh, gosh. Okay, so being aggressive and violent and, angry all the time, there's a different way. So, yeah, to me, actually, it was exactly that. I've never really thought of that before, but these people just loved me. It was really beautiful. And, of course, I couldn't in any way accept that in the beginning, but what about you? What happened to you?
I think that, there's certainly been times in my life when I woke up to something that I had been blind to. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't because someone got in my face, and shamed me and accused me of, whatever, bigotry, racism, like, when I'm probably like most people, when I get attacked, I usually get defensive.
Yeah.
But when I'm held, like you were saying, and I know that I'm accepted, and I know that I'm loved, then it's a lot easier for me to look at parts of myself that are painful.
Sure, absolutely.
And I think a lot of environmentalism doesn't really understand that. And so you see a lot of very shrill rhetoric that basically is trying to arouse our indignation and hatred toward, whatever, the frackers, the Monsanto, the bankers, the corporate executives, with the idea that if we arouse enough hatred and anger, people will rise up, and get rid of these horrible bad guys. But, for one thing, the supposed bad guys aren't going to change when they're being attacked.
True.
We're going to look ridiculous to them because they know that they're not monstrous people. They know that they go to work every day, they work hard, they come home, they love their children, they take care of their dog. They're like, I'm not a monster. So we look ridiculous to them. And the other problem is that the problem isn't actually the bad guys. They're just role players in a system that creates those roles. So even if we could magically eliminate every corporate executive and banker in the world, if we didn't change the system, then new people would step up into those roles. So, I like to think then, how do we change the system on a really, really deep level? What's the system built on? And I could keep talking, but maybe I don't want to dominate the conversation.
No, well, you're the guest of honor, so please do dominate as much as you want. I just would perhaps take this opportunity to say that we will be taking calls today. So if you'd like to call in and ask Charles a question, the number would be, it's a US number, so 001 from outside of the USA, and then 347-327-9223 if you'd like to call in and ask Charles a question. We'll be doing that probably on the half hour if we've got any callers. Yeah, I just wanted to pick up on something you just said because my perception, having completely and radically changed the way I view the world, because like I said, I was deeply held at one stage at a time when I was really broken. So, I was open, I suppose, to something different because it hadn't worked the way before. But since that time, I've really noticed that there seems to be a shift in consciousness. I trained as a body talk practitioner in 2005. At that time, if I did a fair, there'd be like a Reiki person and a massage person and very little else. Now there are a gazillion different, therapies and modalities. Everybody does Reiki, you know what I mean? And there seems to be a shift away from, towards growing our own vegetables and organic food. 10 years ago, nobody bought organic, and I did it as a matter of principle because I was angry. But now it seems to be there's just as much organic, well, maybe not just as much, but enough organic to have a choice. And some of the big banking systems seem to be having problems, and, like you said, there's a lot of anger towards people that are, purposefully and willfully destroying our homes. So to me, it feels like there is a shift in consciousness. Well, is that how you see it?
Yeah, I do think there is. There's a guy I read sometimes, Tom Atlee, and he says, things are getting better and better and worse, faster and faster.
I like that. It's true. It's true.
So, yeah, there is like this upwelling of a new consciousness, and all the things you were talking about, holistic healing, gardening, permaculture, organic agriculture, like social technologies, nonviolent communication, restorative justice, circle processes. Just so much stuff, is rising, and at the same time, fracking is spreading everywhere. There's like some kind of oil spill or oil disaster almost every day.
Yes.
If you read the news, Fukushima is still leaking radiation, and there's like you can equally make a case that things are hopeless and they're getting worse and worse, and it's all happening at the same time.
But, one of the mindsets that I used to carry was it's so hopeless, I can't do anything. And I think whilst we're in that impotence, then, but at the same time inside me, I know that there are things that can be done now, that are different and can help. And, I'm a bit of a fatalist, and I think, well, maybe mankind needs to make itself extinct so that the planet can, because she's going to be fine if we go, right?
Well,
it's going to be so stupid that we will.
Okay, yeah, I don't actually believe that.
Okay.
I want to respond to both those things, but I'll start with the second first. I think that one narrative that I like, and I'm not saying that this is the truth or that I have any evidence for it, but it's that the whole history of Gaia has been geared toward giving birth to a technological species like ours. Why did Gaia lay down all of those petroleum reserves? All the readily available mineral deposits, the iron ore, all of this stuff. It's like the planet was tailor-made for the rise of a technological civilization. And I think that every species on Earth has a purpose. It has a contribution to make toward the development of the planet as a living being.
Yeah.
And that if we fail to make our contribution, if we fail to direct our gift, we have a unique gift on this planet, and it's not just an accident, and if we fail to apply it toward its true purpose, then in a way, like, the destiny of the planet has not come to fruition. And there are certainly scenarios where we manage to basically extinguish all life on Earth. There's scenarios, runaway greenhouse, where Earth becomes like Venus, or desertification of Earth becomes like Mars. So I think that, I don't know if the planet will be fine. Even if life survives, I think that Gaia gave birth to us for a reason.
I've actually never heard that before, and I like that.
Yeah. So what we're doing is important, and so that kind of links to the other thing you were saying. And I write a lot about that in the book. That we have this felt sense that our personal actions are significant and important. Our private struggles aren't just private struggles, but they have an effect on the universe, and that like, say you have some kind of personal crisis, or relationship crisis, or somebody you love is in need, like, you'll drop everything to take care of that, even if that everything might have been going to an anti-fracking rally or something like that. Well, the rational mind will say that, the anti-fracking rally was much more important because that's a big picture thing, much more important than, meeting the needs of some, individual person in your life, grandmother's feeling lonely today or something like that, and going off and doing that, the rational mind can't explain or justify the feeling of significance we get from doing these small, it could even be invisible things. But we have a feeling, that this is the most important thing in the world right now. And I think we have to begin listening to that, and we have to develop a logic or a worldview that validates that. And such a worldview is readily available. And in fact, the worldview that diminishes those small acts of love, kindness, generosity, and so on, that is the same worldview that has generated our whole civilization. It's the worldview that says we are separate beings in an external universe governed by force. So to change the world, you have to exert force. And the more force you have at your disposal, the more powerful you are. And this universe outside ourselves doesn't have the qualities of a self. It doesn't have purpose. It doesn't have intelligence. It's just a bunch of stuff out there. So we need to impose our order, impose our control onto this inanimate, soulless external universe. That mindset says that these acts of kindness don't really have much effect on the world. But I think where, you spoke of an awakening or a new consciousness. I think part of that is that we understand that we are not separate beings in the universe of other, but that the whole universe is reflected inside of ourselves, and that everything that we do has an effect on everything. That our small acts are significant, and that everything that we do kind of creates a field that shifts the universe in that direction. So every act of compassion shifts the whole universe a little bit, nudges it toward compassion. That the macrocosm and the microcosm are not two separate realms. I think that we're, as we awaken to that, the heart, which always is urging us to attend to the things that we love in a personal way, no longer has to contradict or conflict or fight the logic of the mind, which used to say those small acts, those are not that important, but no longer, So that's kind of the big picture of what I've been working on a lot recently.
Yeah, and I must remember that nodding on the radio isn't that effective. But no, I was agreeing with that, and I see myself and those around me, and I am a healer, so people come to me and say, well, what should I do? And so often I'm like, well, switch off your brain, go within and find out what it is that your wisdom or your knowledge or your heart or whatever, whatever you want to call it, is saying. And people look at you like you're crazy. They're like, I don't know how to shut the mind off. Or, I don't have time to be quiet for 5 minutes. I don't have time to commune with myself. And, and I'm guilty of feeling guilty for not doing, doing. I want to save the world. I've always been really angry about things, and what happened to me so very recently, and it's been really just so powerful. I can't tell you. So far, I stopped working in the corporate world in 2004, and if I'm really honest, I've been going, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know what I should be doing, and as a consequence, life hasn't been that easy, and I've been doing some massive healing on myself. Very, very recently, I'm posting something really angry on Facebook about Fukushima, I think it was, about the acidification of I can't remember. It's something to do with water and toxins, anyway. And I just heard this really clear voice, so what are you going to do about it? And I was like, oh, yeah, good question. So that sent me into a real, okay, and now I've formulated my plan, like I was just, saying before, and it involves going to Africa and, planting some trees, and that's going to make me extremely happy, and, I have no idea how the money's going to come to pay for it, but I'm trusting that, and as I'm going with the flow, the universe is providing me with the people that I need to learn what I need to learn so I can go and do it effectively, and, yeah, but it's been 9 years of I don't know what to do, and feeling less than because society doesn't really approve of people that aren't achieving and doing and, blah, blah, blah. So that's my journey today. It literally isn't more than 2 or 3 weeks that I've been in complete knowingness, and I can touch it, taste it, feel it, sense it. It's there already. I just have to grow into it. So I'm thrilled. I mean, that is just such a relief for me, who is a doer. And I can start planning and being really, really busy when really what I need to do is go within. But yeah, I feel that our society is not geared towards people listening and not doing.
Yeah, although, I wouldn't say that the advice of, get out of your mind is necessarily a universal prescription. It's very useful advice when the mind isn't giving the answers. And you're in that place where you're just kind of spinning your wheels, and the habitual ways of thinking are not relevant to the problems at hand. There's, when I often use the concept of a story, a story of the self, a story of the world, that tells you what is important, what's meaningful, how the world works, how to do things, how to create change. And if that story is working, then all of those mental structures and mental habits are useful and effective. But what happens for a lot of people is that story stops working. And they begin entering the space of not even knowing who they are, not even knowing what's real anymore. Yeah. All of the old maps become irrelevant. And maybe there's something that they want to accomplish, or a decision they want to make or something like that, but none of the old maps work anymore. And in those circumstances, I think your advice is really important. So don't figure out something that you can't get to through the logic that you're using, And it's a very special place to be. And it sounds like you were in that place for 9 years.
Yeah, I probably wasn't the most fun I've ever been. No, but what I wanted to say to that is I call it the washing machine head. That anxiety head that just goes around and around and nothing good's ever going to come out of it because your logical brain switched off because you're in panic or you're in just that horrendous place of I'm not sleeping enough, I'm not taking care of myself, I'm worrying about the bills, and it's just I call it the washing machine head anyway.
And also the mind and its logic, its effectiveness depends on the premises, on the assumptions that it's using. So if your basic assumptions that are underneath your logic are something like, the world is full of competing individuals, what I do only changes the world if I can measure it. You have certain assumptions about human nature and the way the world works and how to get things done, and if those assumptions can be very limiting.
Sure, and quite strangling sometimes. They keep you locked in because you can't see the bigger picture. You can't, I find a lot. Yeah, well, a lot of my clients present with these sorts of dilemmas. It's like I'm so stuck in this, I can't move, and it's like, okay, well, breathe and sit back a little bit, and then let's take another look at it. Okay, Charles. Well, we seem to have a caller, so would it be okay if we have a chat with someone?
Yeah, let's do that.
Oh, okay. So the number is 570-1393, and I'm going to see if I can work this out. Hello? Hello? Apparently not. I'm not going to. Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Anybody there?
Doesn't sound like it's working.
No. I am a complete technophobe, so I hope this person will call back in. Anyway, so, okay, well, so Charles, may I ask you my little pet question about the environment then? So, we're pretty much on a road to hell in a handbasket, in my opinion. And there's a lot of really, really good work that's being done, but there's also a lot of, there's more, we're trashing the planet more than we're edifying her, and my question is, what should one do? Mend myself so that the planet heals, or go and do something about it? I'm confused.
Well, I think that in the end, we can't mend ourselves without doing something in the world. We only know ourselves through our relationships and through our work. So at some point, and there's certain processes that we can go through in a cave, meditating on the meditation cushion or, on the healer's table. But at some point in that healing process, we desire to know ourselves in relationship to work, in relationship to the challenges that come up in work, in relationship to other people. So I think that dichotomy is ultimately a false dichotomy. That spiritual progress, if you want to use such a term, only happens through our expression of ourselves in the world. So, now I don't know, different people are at different stages. I mean, some people might be in that stage of withdrawing inward, having this intimate time with self, going on retreat, licking your wounds after withdrawing from a long life, a slave life, corporate life. There's a time to just recover. So for some people, that might be the right advice. I don't presume to give a blanket prescription to everybody.
No, absolutely.
But yeah, I think the kind of one general guideline that I like to use is to follow the feeling of being alive. We have this life force that is an unerring guide if we can hear it, if we can listen to it. So if you're facing a choice, do I, go to Africa and plant trees, or do I do something else? Well, which choice gives you that feeling of being alive? That makes you excited to wake up in the morning. And I think that to listen to that, rather than to listen to some set of shoulds, even if it's some set of environmental, ecological, ethical shoulds, I think that's a very deep kind of revolution. People are very adept at justifying anything they do.
Yes.
And saying, yes, my life is justified. I'm changing the world because I'm out there, campaigning for Jesus, or I'm out there campaigning against fracking, or I'm out there, everybody has this cause, and people on opposite sides of the same question, both are feeling the same thing inside. They're both feeling that we're on the side of righteousness. And we're, taking action to make the world a better place. So I think that our kind of mental, rationalistic guideline for how to make choices in life is ultimately part of the problem. And so, when I say, well, choose what makes you feel alive, choose what you really want to do. Simply, what do you want to do? It sounds like a simple question, but it's actually a difficult question because we're so habituated to denying our desires. I mean, this is part of the war against the self that mirrors the war on nature, and it riddles our whole society. And so to say, trust the life force within you, trust the desire, trust in what feels alive to you, trust that. That is really challenging. It's subversive. It's frightening.
Huge
and
frightening. Yeah. Many people.
But what would happen if we did that? That to me, that is a really profound revolution. And it might take time to learn. What do we really want? What makes me feel alive? Maybe it's this. Maybe I'll choose it. Maybe I'll go through the process and realize in the end that isn't really what I wanted after all.
Yes.
I didn't want that, 2,000 square meter mansion and the Rolls Royce, like I thought I did, but after going through that, what I really wanted was to respect myself. It's a deepening process.
And also, so few people seem to know how to listen to what they want. So that can be some of the work that I do with my clients as well. It's like teaching them to allow themselves and give themselves permission to feel into what it is they think they might like, in the beginning. It can be a really slow process. And I often say, some of these lessons are life lessons, which means it might take you a lifetime, Charles, I'm going to interrupt you a little bit because we have two people on the calls here, and I'm determined that this is going to work. So I'm going to go back to the first number. It's 570 and it ends in 1393. So better luck with this time. Hello.
Can you hear me now?
I can, yes. I'm so sorry about before. What's your name, please?
Tyler.
Hi, Tyler. Thanks so much for calling in. What's your question?
Sure. I was just wanting to take the conversation you all were having further about this being a slow process of listening to what our hearts really desire, motivating ourselves by beauty. I think this is a difficult process for most people, and as someone who recently was using a fire extinguisher for a whole city on fire and thinking I was doing something, as Charles's metaphor goes, I'm starting the process of non-doing, of wu wei, but that's quite uncomfortable for someone used to the inertia of activism or something, thinking that just moving, even if you're lost in a maze, will get you to the end. I didn't know if both of you all could just talk about those strategies for non-doing to begin that transition to sit still and listen to yourself more, because I find a lot of friends who are passionate about creating a more beautiful world are too hurried to sit still and dream of what that could be.
I so recognize myself in that. Do you want to answer that, Charles?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you're kind of asking two questions, Tyler. One is, how do you yourself cultivate wu wei? And then the other is, how do you spread that to other people? The activist friends you're talking about. So on the personal level, as you know, I mean, it sounds like you have a pretty good understanding of this. As you know, non-doing or wu wei doesn't mean not doing. It means doing when it's time to do, and not habitually doing when it's time not to do. Because when we habitually act, we're not really responding to the need there. We're responding to our habit of acting. So, but it's scary not to act, because we have a worldview that says that nothing changes unless you act, and you got to hurry up, and time is limited, and so forth. So I think to transcend that, one thing you can do is, right? Because how do you know? Like, are you supposed to do nothing at that moment, or are you supposed to act? So I think one way to begin to clarify that is when you feel. So when you're in a state of stillness, and you feel that habit, that may not be in response to anything, but that discomfort of just being, you maybe ask yourself, well, okay, what hurts right now? And you give space to that hurting, to that anxiety, to the fear, to whatever it is that's coming up that's making it almost intolerable just to be. And then, so basically, stillness brings stuff up into the field of awareness for healing. It wants to come up and receive attention. And once that's happened, then you might be a lot more clear. So I don't know if that is helpful at all, but
yeah.
Then the other thing you seem to be asking was in relation to other people. Like, how do you? So there are these activists, and we've got to do something about that. We've got to get out into the streets, and maybe it is the time to get out into the streets, but maybe it's not. And I guess just sometimes you might be able to perceive what is hurting in another person and give attention or bring attention to that through strategic questions, and then to hold that in a space of attention too. The term holding space for somebody. And by being that presence of calmness and of confidence, I think it's infectious, and it creates a field of that. But I'm just kind of feeling it out here.
We all are.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good way of saying it. And I would add to that, sometimes people come and they have no relationship whatsoever to their body, to how they feel. And I usually just concentrate then on the breathing. Literally spend some time. If you genuinely have no relationship with your body, then how are you going to know when, the wisdom comes up or whatever? So I get them to, practice their breathing. Literally, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. Thought comes in, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. So that they start to feel into their body and learn the language that their body is teaching them. And start dancing or doing anything that's active to get them to really feel into when their body is telling them something, and the wisdom can come through that way if they've got into relationship with their body. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but the thing is, that's fine for a healing session or something. But what if you're just in a conversation in a context where it would be really kind of awkward, or even, might even seem kind of sanctimonious, to say, okay, let's get into our bodies, let's breathe.
Yeah.
It might make you seem like kind of a hippie, flaky person.
Okay.
So, but I think that there are kind of, indirect ways to do the same thing. Like one thing that I've noticed, we don't have a lot of touch in our society, either here or in the UK, compared to third world countries where people are, touching each other all the time. But so putting your hand on someone's shoulder even can bring a presence, bring, some embodiment, like it's a connector. And I think, a lot of conversation is actually not about what it seems to be about. It's not about the exchange of ideas. It's not about trying to make a decision together. It's coming from a deeper need. And sometimes you might be able to see what that need is and speak directly to that, or maybe not speak to that, but act to that, touch to that, draw attention to something that meets the real need. I hope that's not too vague.
No, I like that idea. Okay, Tyler, well, thank you very much for calling Spiritual Growth Tools on the radio. I hope that's helped.
Thank you.
Okay, have a nice evening.
Thank you.
And then, yep, I managed to do that. Well done, me. And then we have another caller in 617, which is 6639 on the end, so I'm going to try and get you on now. Hello?
Hi.
Oh, hi. Thanks for calling in. So, what's your name?
My name is Eliza.
Hi, Eliza. How can we help you?
Well, before my question, I just want to quickly thank Charles for all of his gifts, because they really helped me stay loyal to myself and what I believe the world deserves from me. So I know how much goes into that more, I imagine. So thank you. My question is an extension of a brainstorm I've been doing for my sake, because I have a new family, and I'm trying to envision where we can find community that resembles the more beautiful world. And basically, I'm trying to figure out how to reconcile the deeper and more daily relationship with nature that I want to have, that you describe. And then your thoughts on that, to resist the temptation to just sort of retreat and run away and build an alternative, divorce ourselves from society. You talk about living more closely and, something that's urban, but a more involved urban lifestyle. So do you have any visions of how that could work?
Yeah, I can say a few things about that. First, I want to say, I don't know, I was just thinking of the way I responded to Tyler, and I'm just thinking, I'm not actually a very wise person, and I feel, I feel a little bit uncomfortable, just being on the radio show and being the guest and stuff like that kind of implies that, I am more worthy than someone else of being in this position, and therefore I know what someone should do. And I really don't, and I think that it's like, I'm not saying that my work isn't profound. Like, I'm in love with my work, and I think it is profound, and it's coming from somebody who isn't really that special, which is good news, because it means that it's available to anybody. You know, all of us are on the verge of this world. You don't have to be like some really special, wise person, you know, because I'm not. So I just want to say that, like, you know, like, whatever I said, I mean, the answer to Tyler's question is definitely within him. He's not much farther from it than I am, you know. So anyway, I just wanted to say that. And Liza now, yeah, you know, I have this dilemma too. Sometimes I'm like, I've got to get to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. This place does not support me. It's a very, very deeply wounded place. It's one of the most polluted cities in America. You know, it's one of the most violent cities in America. It's very, very conservative. You know, I don't have much access to nature, and when I do try to get into nature, I end up getting arrested. You know, and it's very paternalistic, and you know, it's just really deeply mired in the old story, and coming, like, living here, you know, it's not like it supports and uplifts me, you know, and then I travel somewhere and you know, thought processes that would take me a week to get through here happen in 5 seconds, you know, and I just feel so much more enlightened, you know, and so sometimes I think, yeah, maybe I should go where I really feel nourished and where I can really do my work and I'm supported. Then, of course, there's the argument that, yeah, maybe where I'm really needed is here. And, you know, like, ultimately, you can't escape it. Like, I mean, I was just in Bali a week ago. You know, beautiful island in Indonesia, you know, really strong, still a really strong spiritual life. And I'm like, yeah, I want to move there, you know. But even there, there's the impact of the West is tremendously damaging. You know, and the tourism industry and the commodification of local culture and all that stuff. Like, you can't escape it. And in some sense, I mean, sometimes I just want to get off this planet, you know? It just sometimes the wrongness seems so all-encompassing. And I just want to get out of here. But then I realize that I'm here for a reason. I'm here to contribute something. But maybe I'm even in Harrisburg for a reason. I don't know. So those are just two, you know, kind of two different threads that run through my mind. Yeah, so I haven't given you an answer, but maybe I've added some more confusion. But Liza, do you want to follow up on that?
Well, just to say, you know, I would disagree with you. I think you're someone who's put into words perhaps what other people are thinking, and that what, you know, and we're all special, so you might have to just take that one. But for Eliza, I want to say, you know, the advice to me was just go with what feels right, what's in your heart, what you're being drawn to. You know, and my opinion is, as long as I'm not harming anybody else and I'm doing something that's in service to others, pretty much anything goes. I don't know if anyone disagrees with that, but, you know, and it's a little bit Buddhist and it's a little bit naive too, but there's certainly a sense of, you know, this project that I've got, it just feels so right. I don't think I can not do it, you know. It just comes from such a deep place of knowing that it's what I should do.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's following the life force, you know. Like, you can make an argument for staying where you are. You can make an argument for going off into an eco-village or starting your own eco-village. You know, you can make an argument for, you know, going out into nature to give, you say you have a new family, maybe you have a new child or something, you know, you could make an argument for, yeah, I really want to bring him up in nature so that he or she can become, you know, a healthy person. which this planet needs. You can make lots of cases for anything, and I guess underneath it, well, on the one hand, underneath it, there's maybe something that you really want to do. Another thing, maybe we don't have as much choice in these matters as we think.
Yes.
Maybe we get put places, and really our job is to have the full experience of them, and when a choice presents itself, you make that choice. You can't make a choice that isn't in front of you. So, I mean, I often feel like that, like I talk about moving somewhere else, but there's a lot holding me here. My children have strong ties here, and I feel like it's going to happen. And when it happens, it'll be, I'll know it. I'll know that it's time.
Yeah. And we make 100,000 choices every day, and sometimes we make the choice not to change. So, it's just being really conscious of the little choices we make as well as the really, really big ones. But it sounds to me, Eliza, as if you're really at a place of knowing what you might want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I've had, I guess, fantasies for a long time about making my own version of a community that I experienced, while traveling. And there's the pragmatic arguments I can surmount because they just feel like me bullying myself about being too idealistic. But the other side of, is this really a step toward, trying to connect with people, or is it more just me trying to completely control everything about how my life feels and what my child will be around? That's where I come into conflict with myself, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, what if you just came back to the simple question, well, what do I, really want to do? Just on its own merits. What if the only justification I have to offer is because I want to, then what would I choose?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Not because it'll help the world, not because of any reason. We think that we make decisions based on reasons.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we're trained to think, and when someone says, well, why did you do that? They're asking for a reason. But I think usually when someone says, why did you do that? They're actually asking you to lie. They're asking you to make up a reason. But was that the real reason? Do we really have access most of the time to the real reasons? Probably not. I think we often, because we're so used to this kind of, again, it comes down to the war against the self, and conditional self-approval and stuff. We're so used to justifying ourselves and inventing reasons that are palatable, that are acceptable to the inner judge and to society, that we lose touch with real motivation. So sometimes that's what I do, I just get quiet and I say, if I didn't have to justify it to anyone, what would I just want to do? Just because I want to. That's what a baby does.
I like that.
That's what an animal does. And that's what, some indigenous cultures do too. So, maybe we need to learn from that. From those people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. It's interesting because, I guess my original question was sort of picking at ideas for what society might look like in the future, but it's become more a conversation about what I want to do with my life and for my family, and maybe it's that line of thinking that will answer the bigger question, and it'll, a reformed type of urban environment will come through emergence of individual choices instead of some top-down planning.
There are really cool urban environments now,
Definitely.
Yeah, I don't know, like Portland, Oregon, there's some places that kind of at least give a glimpse of what a city could be. And if it can happen there, it can happen in a lot of places. I mean, for those who have those gifts and that inclination, there's really beautiful work to be done in the cities.
Excellent.
Well, thank you for taking my call.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for calling in, and good luck with whatever it is you decide.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, Charles, well, I can see we're coming up to the top of the hour here. So, thank you so much for coming in and sharing your wisdom. And I highly recommend to anyone that hasn't read any of Charles' books or seen him talk or even been on his website to go, look at what he's doing, because, I think he's a voice to listen to. You'll probably not like that coat to wear, but I personally find what you're saying is really helpful to me in my journey. So thank you so much for coming on, Charles. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was my pleasure.
Well, I'm very happy that you came on. Okay, so the next show is on February the 25th at 7 p.m. GMT, and my guest is Steve Trista. Steve describes himself as a truth seeker, a comedy actor, an ethical vegan, and a spiritual geezer, which is an English word for guy. It's definitely going to be a colourful show, and then after that show, I'm taking a 2-week break because I'm going off to Kenya to take a look at the land that I hope to be planting my trees on. So the show after that will be on after the 25th will be on the 18th of March. So thank you for listening to us on Spiritual Growth Tools on the radio, and if you'd like to make a donation to help with the running costs of the show, then please go to spiritualgrowthtools.co.uk and find the page with the radio shows on it. You will see a PayPal button that you can use to help keep the show going. So I really love doing this show, so thank you for listening in. Stay safe, and I hope you find the tools that you need to grow with grace this week. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to Spiritual Growth Tools live on the radio. For more information, go to spiritualgrowthtools.co.uk.